Honorable Chathuranga Abeysinghe, you have an allocation of 12 minutes.
Deputy Speaker, so this particular department is the heart of the economy in terms of transforming the country towards growth. Because now we are at a juncture that we need to shift from failed neoliberal economics to development economics, and that this government is taking steps to make those critical changes. But whilst we discuss and debate about this economic transformation, it is very important to understand the context of the economy that we are in. The people on the other side who try to advise the government and kind of trying to see faults in the proposals that we've made, they made a country which has a 2 trillion deficit in the fiscal policy, which continued, and there had not been any solution for them. And they created a country with a trade deficit of $8 billion, which continued to soar, and that now we are in trouble, that our currency issues came through that trade deficit which was continued. And we went into borrowing from the market, ISBs, especially 12 billion ISBs was taken of the regime that who are talking today about economics from 2015 to 19, which put this country into this bankrupt position. And also leading to mismanagement and corruption, that is where we are at. Now it's a time for us to present a budget, a financial plan that will allow Sri Lanka to recover. And we all understand the limitations and the constraints that we have been forced upon, because we are in a framework of IMF, which this government has agreed to move along for the next 3 years in enabling us to repay this debt by 2029. And we know it's difficult. Our hands are tight, but with the limited amount of maneuvering that we can do, how to transform this country. But what we need to understand is that these kind of constraints on fiscal policy was there when the corrupt rulers were ruling this country for the past 70 years. So what can we do differently at this point where we have so much of constraints on the fiscal policy? One is from a perspective of optimization, other one is a perspective of prioritization. From optimization perspective, now we are trying hard to collect the revenue which was lost, and the tax collection has never been efficient in this country. Those who talk here about giving various suggestions and ideas was unable to improve our tax efficiency and widen the tax net. But now we are trying to use certain taxes which is having the least bearing on the public and the investment, but we have to impose certain taxes in order for us to achieve a 15.1% of the GDP as the target. And at the same time, this is the only government that has a focus on reducing wasteful expenditure that has been there over and over, that's been spent unnecessarily. The tax money has been wasted. Giving a very simple example, in my ministry, the line item for the minister, for the last 4 months, we have only spent 11 million rupees, where in the previous year, there has been expenditure of 28 million. So it is on the prioritization side. Now we need to prioritize our recurrent expenditure. We can't do much, but in terms of the 4% capital expenditure that we can do, how do we really prioritize in this in terms of bringing the economic growth that we want? We all know, the people who read about economics, there are contractionary policies and expansionary policies. Now we are in a position to run the expansionary policies in this country, but we can only run from the expenditure perspective, because we have no control over the tax perspective. When you give tax benefits, tax reductions, that will induce the economy to grow. But unfortunately, we are not in a position to use tax as a tool, but we are using expenditure as a tool. That is why there is a lot of expenditure that is purposefully put in terms of especially the salary increase that is going for the public servants. that is going to come directly back at the economy as a consumption, 110 billion. And the distribution, and it will also reduce the disruptions that can be expected from the government services, that the people will be happy to work for this change. And in the same time, the expenditure that we are making on the welfare and the packages that is given to the people who are suffering, that is also directly going to come back to the economy as expenditure that is again going to improve the aggregate demand with 749 billion rupees that is been planned for. So if you really look at the economic theory, if you go to 1936, Keynes said in his book of Employment, Interest and Money, if you ask people to dig a hole and then fill it back and again dig it again, and if you still pay those employees money, that will boost the economy. So by nature of expenditure, government expenditure, that is where the growth is going to come this year, especially on the capital expenditure of 1.3 billion and 3 trillion, and also in terms of the expenditure that is we are paying directly to people. Now we are also investing in digital transformation, which the previous governments failed to do so. This is mainly in order to ensure that the transparency takes place, and also this is going to enable us a huge amount of tax collection. So we are banking on our improvement of the tax net is through this digital transformation. Therefore, 21 billion rupees has been allocated, which previous governments failed to do so. And this also is going to increase the efficiency of doing business, and ease of doing business will increase with the digital transformation that is taking place in the government. So we are basically, at the same time, the investments that been put on the road network and the transportation, which is about 433 billion, that's going to boost the economy in multiple ways, because when you spend on construction, that industry has a trickling effect, and it also improves the circulation of money, and that also provides access to industrialization across the country, which don't have access to. And then the investments on the energy, especially with the private sector, that main intention is to bring down the energy costs by 1/3 again in the next few years to come. The investments that have been planned in this budget from the planning division on the SMEs to reboost the SME sector and support the SME sector is about 39 billion rupees. So these are huge investments which previous governments did not prioritize. And the investments in the health and education is going to give us the next phase of our growth, creating the skill that is required, especially on the technical skills. There's a 15.1 billion rupees that's been spent, and the health expenditure is going to give us a strong, healthier workforce to drive this economy forward. And there has been enough attention given to R&D as well. So what's different from the economic theories or things that happened previously to this budget? Because now if you are looking at the 4.3 trillion that this government will spend both on capex and opex, there won't be any single rupee that's going to be wasted. We know the amount of wasteful expenditure that was done, which never got directly related to the economic growth, but we can assure that the 4.3 trillion that is going to be spent in this budget is directly connected to outcome. And then the previous governments, the regimes, they always wanted to sell off all the SOEs in hand, not having a strategic view on SOEs and not thinking about the additional income to the treasury. So here we are not selling off our SOEs, but also strengthening them through public-private partnerships, and we will be holding on to strategic investments while we are trying to improve the revenue that will come to the treasury through these businesses, as we can strengthen them to greater heights. And also the economic theory of, the market can solve all the problems has been proven false, not only in Sri Lanka, but even in US. Now they are realizing how they should protect their country, moving away from the free market or completely free market thinking. So this budget is designed in terms of state, cooperatives and private sector will play a significant role in making a competitive environment for business, and also giving the best to the consumer through competition. So all these three institutions or structures and also along with regulations will continue to ensure that there will be a competitive goods and services for people. So and at the
Honorable
same time,
Chathuranga Abeysinghe, you have 2 more minutes.
thank you. So, and also same time, we are opening the economy for FDIs, for technology, capital and market needs. There is huge amount of potential for Sri Lanka, especially in the energy sector, that needs to grow. And then the maritime investments across our sea, the blue ocean economy, and then the industrial parks, there is opportunity for private sector to come in and play. And in terms of there are many investments that has been opened up for foreign investments as well as local investments to be part of it. So this is a historic moment for Sri Lanka. After 1997, we are shifting the economic model of this country to achieve the greater heights that was achieved by India, Vietnam, and South Korea. So the economic theories or the experts who has ruled this country has brought us to the knees, which we have now lost certain amount of sovereignty in terms of our economic capabilities. So we are leaving behind the neoliberal economics plus the corrupt political culture that we had in the previous decades, and we are moving towards a development economic process that the government will play a pivotal role. So this particular government will be structured and made efficient with the political will that the changes that will take place, both especially in creating a strong base for production, strong base for agriculture, strong base for exports, and strong base for trade in terms of especially strengthening our cooperative systems and going forward. So therefore, I urge the public to be aware of how this budget is designed. It's an integrated approach.
Honorable Chathuranga Abeysinghe, your time is up.
30 seconds.
Okay.
Not only the Ministry of Finance, but all the ministries are integrated, and there is a cohesive integrated strategy, and we would invite the industrialists to be part of this strategization, which will take place within next 6 months in order to achieve 45 billion targeted revenue exports by 2030, and also to continue to grow this economy with a 6% run rate, and also that creates a better life for everyone in a prosperous country. Thank you.